The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We are live with you right now, and we're going to be live for the next hour talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. If you watch the show on a regular basis, you know that we changed our format slightly. We went from doing 2 shows for 2 hours on 2 separate days to doing 5 shows 1 hour a day. It does mean that occasionally we're going to be coming to you with something that we pre-taped. And part of the reason that we did this is so that we could bring you some more content, because sometimes people just aren't available on Wednesdays and Thursdays between those set times. So there are going to be times that segments are going to be pre-taped and be coming to you. And last week I was out of town because I was in Boston doing some talks and doing some touristy things. I did find the time to do some touristy things with my family. But I just wanted to say, and the reason why I'm saying all this is because a couple of you had written in on Facebook during yesterday's show and said that you were feeling a little bit bad, that you felt like the show used to be more interactive. I just want you to know that the show is actually going to be more interactive, because even when we show you a pre-taped segment, most of the time I will be available to sit and talk with you during the comments more than I can while I'm here doing the show, because I'm not somebody, I love people who are texting and doing whatever while they're having a conversation. I'm not good at that. So last week was sort of the exception because I couldn't be in 2 places at the same time. But most of the time now, even when we aren't live, but we are live right now, but if we aren't live, I will then be watching and commenting and directing, people to different things and resources. So I just want you to know we're hearing you about the interactive thing, and I want you to go through a whole week of it this way, and then tell me, and we can reevaluate. Like, we're here for you. So that's the whole thing. I do want to remind you that there are lots of different ways that you can participate, lots of different ways that you can watch in all different kinds of formats. I will say that many of you join us live, and more of you are joining us live, and we absolutely love that. But a lot of people also watch everything pre-recorded, and that's okay too. But just know that you can always participate. You can always write in on the live feature. In fact, Traven has started showing you some of the different ways that you can connect with us. So each way is a little bit different, right? I do encourage you to check out our website, our homepage, which is autism-live.com. There's lots of things to do there, including watching the live show. But you can also watch all the recorded shows and search them by topic and by person and all different kinds of things. I'm going to have the hiccups here in just a second. So, but in any case, you can still chat with us whether we're live or not. And it date stamps it now. I still encourage you to tell me what you were watching, because it won't tell me what you were watching when you did that, and there are millions of things that you could watch. But it does date stamp it so that I know what day you wrote it in and what time you wrote it in. So you can absolutely do that. But I also encourage you, if you're on Facebook and watching us when we're live, that's a really interactive way to participate with us. And then other people can watch it later on Facebook. On YouTube, there is something unique that when you're watching us live, if you write in a comment while we're live and we don't get to it, the minute the show is over, they disappear. I don't know why YouTube does that. So if you've written in a comment while we're live on YouTube and it didn't get answered and you're like, hey, what happened? Feel free to email me directly. And you can always email me directly. My email is S as in Shannon, dot Penrod, and that's P as in Peter, E as in egg, N as in Nancy, R as in robot, O as in Oscar, D as in dog, at autism, which I know you guys know how to spell, and it's the hyphen, the dash, live, live.com. And if you're wondering why I take the time to spell that out, because I know more and more of you are listening to us in the car and don't have the visual. And I loved, somebody once sent me the phonetic spelling of, because I would just rattle off and say s.penrod at autism-live.com, and somebody wrote to me, so is this what it is on the live feature? And it was so different from what I was saying, so that's why I spell it out. Okay. So in any case, I was saying that we're going to be with you live for the next hour, and that's a big treat for me. We love it when you guys are interactive and when you write into us. That's my favorite part, is interacting with you. So I'm happy to hear that you want more of it. I do like to remind you at the start of the show that we have tons of experts on the show, and I think you're just going to love today's lineup. But I'm not one of them, right? So I'm an autism mom, very proud of that. And I'm here because this matters to me. I got help and support when I needed it in the best possible way. See, I'm going to tear up. And I have a moral obligation to help other people to find the things that they need. That does not mean that what I found is necessarily what you found, but you will see that I do have an opinion. I like to say now, people go, you don't consider yourself an expert? No, I do not. I consider myself somebody who has an informed opinion. Which is way different than being an expert. Yes, I've been hosting shows about autism for over a decade now, interviewing experts, learning a lot. I feel like a student in the front row, but that does not make me an expert. And I understand that distinction, and I hope that you guys will bear with me, because a lot of times I have a very strident voice and I do have an opinion. And so people think that I know everything, and inside I'm 100% sure I know nothing. But I care, and I care about you, and I care about, everybody, from the parents to the practitioners, to the brothers and sisters and the aunts and uncles and the community that surrounds the person who's on the spectrum, who I care so very much about. How could I not? How could I not as a parent? How could I not care about? So those of you who are watching who are on the autism spectrum, please know that of course you are at the center of everything that we do and talk about. It is not one size fits all. So some of the things I'm going to say are going to tick you off. And I welcome you to this conversation and for you to tell me when I say something that ticks you off. Some of the things I know that I say tick you off, I'm aware of, but keep telling me. I know that there is a real division, and that, look, I think that intention is 9/10 of everything. Not to Wayne Dyer you, but I think intention is most important. And my intention is to help individuals who are on the autism spectrum to get to the things that are important to them. That is so different for so many people. And yesterday I know we had some people who were understandably upset about talking about the word recovery, that it's a trigger word, and I understand that that is a very unsettling word for a lot of people. I've said many times, let's find a different word, one that isn't unsettling, but I know even the concept of it can be upsetting for people who are on the autism spectrum. I want to be clear that at least when I'm talking about recovery, I'm talking about taking the disabling aspects of autism and minimizing them to the point where they can no longer be considered disabling. I'm not talking about getting rid of people whose brains are different and function different and are neurodiverse at all. At all. My whole life is about wanting to help those individuals to be able to get to the things that are meaningful to them, not the things that are meaningful to those of us that are, what that neurotypical that I hate, right? So, Traven, you waiting to talk to me? I'm taking too much time? I'm sorry? All right. Traven's saying, Shannon, you're off on a tangent. Get on the stick here. We got things to talk about. We do. So in any case, we like to start every day with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. And so thrilled to bring that to you today. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what the experts are talking about when they say these words. So first we give you the actual definition, and then we give you a somewhat watered down, more understandable definition. And often I like to make fun of the actual definition. But the hope is that we all start to glean a little bit of information about what this thing is and why it's important to us. Please don't be frustrated if you don't get it the first round, because sometimes it takes listening to it in a couple of different contexts, and that's why we go back over these terms from time to time. So today's term, and you're going to see in a little while why we chose this for today, is joint attention. Now, you might think that this is about taking care of your joints. It's not. It's not at all. So let's take a look at what our actual definition of joint attention is, because this is fun. A really important thing. The process by which one alerts another to stimulus via nonverbal means such as gazing or pointing. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner here. This is one that we can absolutely make fun of. What? Well, let's read that again. The process by which one alerts another to stimulus via nonverbal means such as gazing or pointing. Okay. If that is clear to you, let me give you a hug and give you a PhD, because I'm like, what? So let's take a look at our working definition and see if we can get a hold of this. The ability to share attention with another person toward an object, person, or event. Still a little foggy, right? I like to think of this as the magic triangle of attention, right? So imagine that you're sitting there with a 2-year-old, and this happens all the time with a 2-year-old. The two of you are sitting there, and maybe you're watching a computer screen or a TV or something, and they show a giraffe. Maybe you're at the zoo and you're looking at a real giraffe, right? And you look at the giraffe and you look at the child and you go, oh, and you both look back at the giraffe. So you're looking at each other and you're both looking at the giraffe, and you're looking and you're having reactions to it, and it's like, look at that. Okay, so now that you know that, let's go back over the definitions. The ability to share attention with a person toward an object, person, or event. It's that triangle. So you're like, and it's mostly nonverbal, right? We're having this interaction, and we're looking at each other, and then we both look at that, and then we look back like, how do you feel about the giraffe? I feel like it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen, right? And we're conveying so much social information in this triangle between this individual who's 1 or 2 or 45, right? We do this all the time. Let's go back, Traven, if you don't mind, to the actual definition and see if it makes a little bit more sense. Okay, so the process by which one alerts another to a stimulus via nonverbal means, such as gazing or pointing. So I look at the 2-year-old, and I look at the giraffe, and I look back, right? And we're communicating about the stimulus, which is the giraffe. Triangle of attention. Now, why is this important? Because every social interaction builds off of that platform. So later on, when I'm looking at the child and I'm saying to them, hey, do you want to have a tuna fish sandwich, or do you want to have an egg salad sandwich, right? And there's somebody else sitting there, and we're taking into consideration that other person. And later on, when they come into the room and you're talking to somebody and they interrupt, like if you think about every social interaction that there is right on this platform, this is the basis on which we build it all. And a lot of individuals on the autism spectrum don't come by joint attention naturally. They're not orienting to faces. They orient to things. So they are taking in the giraffe, but they are not noticing what somebody else's reaction to the giraffe is. So we're not having that communication. This is the beginning of conversation. It's just nonverbal, right? And it's the beginning of perspective taking, because we both look at the giraffe and I go, oh, like it's so exciting. And the ability to read my face and know that this is something that's good and not frightening. Maybe it's different when we're there with a snake and I go, ooh, right? And now the child is learning, oh, snakes are scary. Sometimes in that triangle, we convey information that isn't good, right? Making a child afraid of a snake. But sometimes it's important for safety. If you think about it, it's everything. This is the keys to the kingdom. So joint attention, by the way, can be taught. This is one of the reasons why we say early intervention is so key, because if you see that a 1-year-old isn't participating in joint attention and you begin to reinforce it and teach it and give them opportunities with things that are very preferred, then they get better at it. So that when they're 2, they're doing it, right? And then we can build on that platform, and we're gonna get to conversation and perspective taking much faster than if we have an 8-year-old who has not learned it, right? Then at 8, we need to teach joint attention, which we can and we do, right? But then we have to go back and teach all the things we would have taught them if they knew that at 2. So joint attention is huge. It's a very important thing to teach, and we know that we can. And you're going to hear a little bit with our next guest about one of the really cool ways that they teach joint attention. But joint attention, very important. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day. And our question to you today, I don't have it because I can't bring it up on my iPad. There it is. What school services have really helped your child? It is IEP season, and I want to be positive assumptive here. I want to assume that there is something at school that's been really helpful to your child. And let's talk about what it is, because, and you can write it on Facebook right now. A lot of times people get very frustrated with school and feel like, you know, enough isn't happening there. Of course, there's the opposite too. People who are like, oh, school is all we need. And I disagree with both of those. How's that? My informed opinion as a former teacher says that many great things can happen in school at the right time, with the right place, with the right program. Usually a parent has to push for that, and there has to be a teacher who's on board. So there can be some amazing things that happen at school, right? In the right place at the right time with the right people pushing for the right and looking at different modalities of teaching. But what's helped you at school? I will tell you that one of the greatest things that happened to us was that at a certain point I went into the IEP having used the skills program, and I said, here are these goals that I want for my child that are social goals. And they have to do with things that happen on the playground, because he's not connecting on the playground. And he needs to, right? So here are these social goals. Can you guys implement those? And they went, oh, we should probably get a recreational therapist to come in and evaluate him. And I said, a recreational what? I'm sorry, what did you say? I'd never heard of that before. They brought in a recreational therapist from UCLA who was amazing. And she evaluated him and then came in and did whole classroom lessons about cooperation and playing with others and persistence and how to connect with kids who aren't a part of the group and have them to be involved. It was so good for all of the kids. It was life-changing, not only for my son, but really for the teacher that was involved in it. She learned so many great skills, and for all of the kids in that classroom, all of the kids in that classroom. So that's, I think, one of the best services we ever got at school. What have you gotten? Write in and tell us. We moving it along here because we got a great guest coming up, but we always have a topic. This week we've been working on a very specific topic near and dear to my heart, which is, I believe, we are still at, okay, it's not what I thought it was. I beg your pardon. I thought we were working on autism and employment. But you know, creating happiness, Traven said he thinks it is autism and employment too. But you know, when you create employment for people on the autism spectrum, you create happiness. So it's all one and the same. It's all part and parcel of the same. So we're going to hope to have a little bit of time today, although we have so many guests, to talk a little bit about employment and autism and creating happiness. But I need to tell you who's on the show today. So first up, and I'm going to slaughter his name and you're all going to forgive me and he'll tell me how you really pronounce it, but Vijay Ravindran is going to be joining us from Floreo. This is a company that is making VR experiences for kids on the autism spectrum to teach very specific things. All of it's going to make sense to you in a minute, but I'm very excited to have them on the show. And then a little bit later on the show, for the first time, we're welcoming Tracey Macdonald. She's the executive director of the Southern California chapter of Autism Speaks. She's going to be talking with us a little bit about her story and how she came to be in this position, but also they've got an amazing event coming up this weekend. It is the Walk for Autism, and it is their 18th annual Los Angeles Walk happening at the Rose Bowl. And there's been some controversy around this particular walk. We talked about this briefly on Monday, and we promised you that we were going to bring somebody to talk about what's happening now. We'll give you a little recap of what happened in the past, but now is what's important, right? I'm going to give her an opportunity to tell you all the reasons why you're going to want to be there on Saturday. So all of that plus more and your questions and comments coming up after this. Stick with us. We'll be right back to talk about VR with Autism with Floreo Inc. Stick with us.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bure.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Hi, Lisa Ackerman back with Talk of Facts. Questions, real life questions and answers for the autism journey. Oh, are you ready for this one? Talk to me about puberty. So what I would recommend is first and foremost is the kids that have done the therapeutics, the medical, and the dietary allergen removal interventions tend to have an easier time at puberty. Seizures are really common for children on the spectrum, more than neurotypical populations, and they're especially most common right at or about puberty time. So it's extremely important, even if you have a 10-year-old, that you've already done an EEG, that you consider before they go through puberty to get a second EEG done. Just because you have one clean EEG with no abnormal brain activity or seizure activity, you need to do another one prior to puberty. That's one of the most common calls we get with teens on the spectrum, is they are often experiencing a seizure for what their family thinks is the first time. And the third thing is you're gonna have a teenager, so you're really gonna have to kick it up a notch on those life skills, social skills, and getting your kid ready to be that teenager they need to be. So if you're doing that baby thing, and I know you are, where you're maybe making their lunches or helping them with laundry, we need to start bouncing some chores over to those kids. And we also need to increase social environments where they can be successful. So think about it. We've got 3 really important things that we need to look at. Puberty is a very serious issue, and we take it very seriously. So make sure you have all of your therapeutics, medical, and dietary interventions in place. Consider to do another 24-hour EEG with your physician prior to puberty. And the third most important thing, get ready to raise the bar. Your job is to really get them ready for life. And I know you can do it.
Logan Shepherd. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepherd is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepherd now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people to never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the card method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back. It was a pause. There was a pause there. Welcome back to Autism Live. We are very excited. The first time on the show that we have Vijay Ravindran, and he is joining us representing the company. He's the founder and CEO of Floreo. So first of all, welcome. How badly did I do on the pronunciation?
You did a great job.
Oh, I think you're being generous. But we're so thrilled that you're here with us. We want to start with, what in the heck is Floreo?
Yeah, Floreo is a virtual reality product inspired by my son, who is on the spectrum and loves maps and was based on his first experience with VR. What we're doing today is we're creating experiences in virtual reality, lessons that take evidence-based practices in teaching social and communication and behavioral skills and transforms them into virtual reality experiences that are animated, that can take into the movements and types of space and immersiveness that the real world has. And that the system creates these VR experiences for someone who's looking to improve their social and communication skills to go through, while simultaneously enabling through an iPad the ability for someone else to coach in real time, see what they're seeing in the virtual reality headset, and be able to work together on improving skills.
Yeah, and I just think this is the direction that everything needs to go into. I think, first of all, VR, for those of you who have not tried it yet, there are all kinds of things at the mall or at Best Buy. You can go and sign up to do a free trial of VR. And I know I was so resistant. My son kept saying to me, "Mom, you got to try this, you got to try this." And I get car sick walking down a hallway. You know what I'm saying? In real life. So just the idea of putting on something and being in this 3D interactive thing totally turned me off. But he bribed me into trying it, and once I did, and I'm telling you, you guys have to try this. Once you do, you will be forever changed, and you will see how amazing this can be for our kiddos on the autism spectrum. Simply, I mean, it's so reinforcing that they want to do it, and then all the things that you can teach in that environment, it's crazy good. But we do Jargon of the Day, and I don't know if you saw that our Jargon today was joint attention. And I know that you kind of started out looking at, can VR help to teach joint attention? So tell us what you discovered.
Yeah, so joint attention was the first module that we developed in Floreo. We have a set of lessons that break down the fundamental pieces that you stair-step to improving things like eye contact and recognizing actions like pointing. And we started those lessons 2.5 years ago as we were building the first version of the system. And it also formed the basis of our first set of research, where we created these lessons, and then we worked with a fantastic partner in New Jersey, the special education school Celebrate the Children. And we had 12 kids go through a 5-week, 3 times a week intervention to improve their joint attention skills. And these were older kids between 9 and 16 years old. And about half of them were minimally verbal or nonverbal. And we had a special education teacher delivering the interventions through Floreo. And we were able to use real-world diagnostic benchmarks on their joint attention skills prior to the study and 4 weeks after the study to be able to show not only did the kids enjoy virtual reality, that they completed 98% of their therapy sessions in the study, but with 10 of the 12 kids, we were able to show clear quantified improvements. And we've since been able to present those results at a digital medicine conference. And that's formed the basis of believing that the Floreo VR system can help in a wide variety of ways.
And so there are lessons about joint attention, but there's a lot more too. What other kinds of things do you have lessons about?
Yeah, so we have a growing catalog in the Floreo application, 77 lessons now that are grouped in a few different areas. We have a section that's called Building Block Skills, which joint attention is part of. And within that section, we have gestures and imitation, and then we have a set of very simple greeting training in a school hallway that just came out last month. Our second area we call Teaching Stories, and we're building immersive scenes that can teach life skills. So, for instance, being able to interact with law enforcement, which is the basis of our NIH-funded research with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, being able to learn how to cross the street. And then we have more lessons planned in the school setting, cafeterias, classrooms. And then the third area where we have a growing library of content is around sensory regulation and calming. So our simple idea is that, we want to be able to build experiences that can give some of the same benefits that calming rooms in schools have, but be able to put it in the parents' homes, in waiting areas. And so we have some simple scenes, one where in the middle of an aquarium, one where you can play the keys of a xylophone, and a more involved one where the child can practice mindfulness and deep breathing.
Wonderful. And so how does, for very practically, for somebody who's like, oh, I'd like to try this, how does it work? What do you need to have? Where do you need to go to get it? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's really simple. You need an iPhone 7 or above, an iPad, and you go to the Apple App Store on your phone or iPad, search for Floreo, and download the app. And once you sign up for our subscription, which includes a 1-month free trial, if you need a headset, we can send you one in the mail. We use fairly inexpensive headsets that cost between $15 and $20 that have tested out really well with the kids. And so that's all you need to get started. And then once you're in Floreo, you fill out a little bit of profile information on who you want to work with and where they are developmentally. And we put a custom curriculum in place so that you can start working with them and go through lessons.
Which is really exciting. Now, there's a whole other part of this that I want to get to in a second, but before we get to the data part of it, what ages do you think this is appropriate for?
Yeah, so currently we recommend Floreo with kids 7 and above, and the main basis of that is what is currently out there in research as far as long-term health impacts with VR. And so the headsets we send can fit kids 7, in fact, even younger, but the curriculum really ends up mapping to where the child is developmentally. I mean, the reality is that something like joint attention training can be very applicable to a 16 or 18-year-old based on where they are developmentally, or it could be boring and a waste of time for a 7-year-old.
Okay, but we need to be clear that this is not intended to be a game that you just put on your child's head and they go off and do it by themselves.
That's right.
There's another person who's there and who's helping to create that, the environment of what's happening that's part of the lesson. I just want to be clear about that because I think people will misunderstand and go, oh, it's just a game that my child plays. There's an aspect to it that has the human element to it as well. And there's another aspect to it that is that it's a very effective way of taking data. Explain that to us and what you mean by what I mean by that.
Yeah. So no, great points. And Floreo is not a babysitter. But it is a fun social way to teach skills. And one of the powers of delivering lesson content through virtual reality as opposed to a computer-based training or an app on an iPad is that we are able to track a lot more. So when you go through lessons in Floreo that have been clinically developed by our staff, you're going through tasks that have benchmarks that are in the system and being tracked. And so if you're working on a scene where you need to shift your gaze to look at an animal that's making a sound, we're measuring how long it took you to find that animal. If you're being in a lesson where we're trying to work on tracking skills for movement, we're testing how well you're tracking a moving animal or something like that. And also, if you're going through conversation coaching or other lessons, the input of the supervising adult through the iPad is also then used to create an understanding of how well the child is progressing. And so we collect that lesson content and that assessment content while they're going through the lessons. And the Floreo system today, when you get through what we call a program or a set of lessons that build up the lesson plan, is then able to make recommendations on what's the next set of lessons. So you can imagine if a child breezes through a curriculum, that we then are able to recommend something that's going to challenge them more in the next set. If they're struggling, then they might need to repeat. And so the Floreo system is able to do that in a manner that requires the type of level of involvement that a parent can handle.
Yeah. And I assume that there is some sort of training for the parent on through the app about how to be the most effective that they can be holding the iPad.
Yeah, so there's two things. One is that the iPad app itself almost feeds lines like a teleprompter to the parent or supervising adult. So for someone who's going through this the first time, they want guidance on what to say, how to praise, we give sample dialogue to help you get going. But above and beyond that, we're available to do trainings for any parent that signs up. And though we're a small team, we're able to put a human touch while we're getting off the ground. And so we work with parents and teachers and therapists every day who are looking for training to get started and provide that over video conference. And we're fortunate as a team in that we're also able to lean on our clinical staff, which includes a trained therapist in the space, as well as a neurodevelopmental pediatrician. And so as folks have particular questions, we have quite the capacity of being able to handle those.
Well, I gotta say, I think this whole model is wicked smart. I just kind of come back from Boston, so that's what I'm gonna say. It's wicked smart. It is because it gives parents who are really motivated a really great reinforcing way to get involved and create progress for their kids. It really, and the kids will love it. I'm just gonna say the VR thing, everybody needs to go out and try it, and then you will see why it is so reinforcing. And having something be reinforcing is like, it's the best teaching tool. When something is automatically fun, they don't know they're learning, yippee skippy, right? So where can people go to find more information?
Yeah, so you can get lots of information on our website, which is FloreoTech, FLOREOTECH.com. Or you can go directly in the iOS App Store if you have an iPad, iPhone. Searching on Floreo also then will lead you to much of the same information. We include on our website published research that we've been conducting, as well as with our main research partners, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia Center for Autism Research. So you can find a lot of information on how Floreo has been used in studies. You can find helpful videos, and you can also sign up to get a personal demonstration of the product by asking for more information on the site.
And we should say that the app is free to download. It will say that there are in-app purchases, but it's free to download. You do need, I tried to download it yesterday, and sadly, I do not have an iPhone 7. I have a 6, and it's just...
Time for an upgrade.
I know, apparently. But you mentioned that you can sign up for a free trial and that the free trial lasts for a certain amount of time. Then after that, do you pay by which lessons you want, or you just have a membership which allows you to have access to specific lessons?
Yeah, so it's after the first month, you're paying $50 a month, and you get access to everything, as much as you want. So we every month we're trying to release new lesson content. So last month we released the school hallway scene training, and you get access to everything once you're subscribed. So you can pull across the set. You can work on sensory regulation one day, move back to building block skills like eye contact, and then hopefully we'll be delighting our customers. And frankly, everything that you see that's built has been driven by customer feedback and desires. So we love customer feedback on areas that you'd like to see new lessons developed for, and we start working on it.
Wonderful. We are unfortunately out of time, but I think this is, as I said, wicked smart and super cool. So definitely want to encourage people to check it out and download the free app. Do the trial and see what happens as a result of it. And I want to thank you for being an awesome dad and for being inspired by your kiddo to do something that now is going to help a lot of other kids.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Take care. All right, you guys, we're going to take a short break, and then we are going to be back with Tracey Macdonald from Autism Speaks, so stick with us.
Hi, Lisa Ackerman back with your Talk of Facts, the autism journey questions and answers that you need to help your child make the progress they need. I'm here to talk to you about one really important item. A lot of people ask me the question, well, Lisa, I want to see this specialist in another state. How do I do that? You know, I don't own a jet. I don't have the ability to fly without great pain and travel. Not a problem. We know how to get this done. So I actually encourage families, even though in travel can be a tremendous hardship getting a child with autism through security, through the plane, and in the journey to where they need to go. We have a whole white paper on TACA about how to travel with special needs kids. So it can be done. So travel, we know that can be expensive. Not everyone has an unlimited supply of cash for air flights. We love and work with this group called miracleflights.org. They're fantastic. They will fly you and your child, so one parent, one adult, anywhere in the United States, one time a year. Also in the TACA document are places to stay. So often you will have people in your life that love and support your family and don't know exactly how to help. Ask them to gift you their travel or their rewards cards or coupons for hotel, rental car. That's a great way to be able to get maybe a hotel room that has a refrigerator or a microwave and that's close to a Whole Foods, so you don't have that added cost of going out to dinner, especially if your kid has a lot of allergies. It's important to note that there's not a pediatrician or a specialist by every Starbucks in the United States. Close does not always equal best. So I bring up the travel point so you know that travel is possible, number one, and often it's really going to help you get down the road faster for your kid and getting the answers you need from the specialist that knows what to do. So don't be afraid to travel.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
No, I can't help you pee. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step one. Step two is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time, and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time. We can come play after. Hurry.
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Uh-oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there. There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Big prayer for your pee-pee. Woo! Yay! Good job. What a big boy. High five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have joining us via the phone because we're having some sort of Skype meltdown. I don't know what it is. But Tracey Macdonald is joining us live on the phone. She is the executive director of the Southern California chapter of Autism Speaks. It's her first time being on the show, but I'm so thrilled to welcome her. She is an autism mom. We were just having a little giggle about the Skype not working and deciding to do it on the phone and saying, you know, we're autism moms, and when it doesn't work one way, we find a workaround, because that's what we do. So Tracey, so thrilled to have you on the show. Welcome to Autism Live.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's really a pleasure to have you here. Now, you guys have a big event that's happening this Saturday. I understand, I was saying the 18th earlier because I can't see straight, but someday, in 2 years, it will be the 18th, but this is the 16th annual Los Angeles Walk for Autism. Tell us a little bit about this event and what's happening on Saturday, and let's chat. But tell us the details of what's going on Saturday.
I will. It's my favorite day of the year when we bring the entire Southern California autism community together, both parents and adults and friends and family. We meet at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, starting at 8:30. We have registration. 9:30, we have sort of some nice opening ceremonies, and then we walk around the Rose Bowl as a big community.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful event. This has also been one of my favorite events from the beginning of time. I specifically asked you to come on this year to talk because there are some miscommunications and some things to clear up about participation. You know, not to put too much of a backstory on it, because I think what's important is now and today. But the walk has gone through some transitions, I think that's fair to say, over the years, and some of the ways in which people access the walk has changed. So let's talk about how people can participate this year.
Okay, and I do appreciate that, because I think as an organization, just like every human being out there, we have made some mistakes along the way, and we fully recognize and acknowledge that. And I always go with the, you know, when you know better, you do better.
That's right.
So this year, pre-registration is 100% free. This is a fundraising event for us, and we love when people pre-register. It just helps us manage crowd control so that we have enough water for everyone, that we have the right support services at the Rose Bowl. So having people pre-register for free makes us able to plan the event much better. We do ask if people show up day of the event to pay a $10 registration fee, which is really just to cover additional costs that are incurred for larger crowds.
Absolutely. So to be clear, you know, we're all grown-ups here. This is a fundraising event, and the whole purpose of the event from the beginning of time was to raise funds, and we can talk about how Autism Speaks uses the funds that are raised in a second, but it is a fundraiser. And so if you want to go to the walk, you need to register ahead of time if you don't want to pay to get in. There is no minimum, correct me if I'm wrong, there is no minimum fundraising that you have to do if you register. Because, as I said, we're all adults. There are some young families that are in the beginning of autism, they've just been diagnosed, and they are being bombarded and they're overwhelmed and they have so many things going on, and if they go, I really want to go to this amazing event, I just don't know if I have the bandwidth to fundraise. That isn't what Autism Speaks is saying. They're just saying register. Register, and if you don't have the ability to fundraise, come anyway. It's not going to cost you anything, but make sure that you register, because we have to account for bodies, we have to account for, you know, what security and having accommodations and all of those things. Autism Speaks would prefer it if you fundraised, and you know, there are some amazing opportunities to fundraise. In fact, if you fundraise to a certain event, you have things, I don't know if you still have, but the Grand Club was always a thing that people love to be. If you raised $1,000 or more, $1,000 or more, you got to be at the Grand Club, and trust me, that's a big reinforcer, getting to be at that Grand Club. So they do want you to fundraise, but if you don't have the bandwidth, just make sure you register online before the event. If you fail to do that, then there will be a $10 admission if you are anyone other than a person on the spectrum. Is that correct? Or have I got that wrong?
children under 18, there is no registration fee. It's really for adults only, and only any adult that is on the spectrum, they never pay.
Okay. So I just am glad that we got that out, because even I the other day misunderstood and thought that everyone was being charged to go into the resource fair. So let's be very clear. We can put that myth to rest. That is not what's happening now.
I appreciate that so much. That is 100% true. There's no per person charge as long as they pre-register.
There you go. So that's super cool. So now that we put that on the table and said, here's, how you can do that, let's talk about why people should come to this wonderful event. And I'm sure you've got a list, I've got a list, but I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. When we originally started this walk, and it was originally conceived in a living room with a bunch of parents sitting around wanting to do something. For me personally, I find that I'm not a behavior therapist. I'm not a speech therapist. There were just so many things about autism that I felt helpless about, that I didn't know how to move forward. And for me, the walk really was a chance for me to feel like I was doing something concrete. So I love the walk. I think it is a great experience. I love that this is the one time of year that our friends and family show up for us, because I think for a lot of our family lives somewhere else. They don't really know how to interact with our son, and this is the only way that they really show up for us. I don't mean the only way, but it is a way for them to really say, we see you, we support you, we love Griffin, what can we do to help? And I think for so many people, I think the word fundraising is difficult. They're like, oh, I don't want to ask anyone for money. Yeah. And I always put it this way, is that if you have a girlfriend, a sister-in-law, someone that's been diagnosed with breast cancer, and you don't know how to help them, you just feel kind of helpless. If they came to you and said, hey, will you do this walk with me? I find I'm so incredibly grateful that I now have a tangible way to show how much I care, and I really want to support them. I just don't know what to do. And that is exactly, to me, what this walk is all about. It is a chance for us to let people support us. I don't know about you, but as an autism mom, I feel like I've got to do it all by myself. I've got to make all the appointments. I got to figure out what's happening, and it's really hard for me to ask for help.
Yeah.
And this is the one time a year that I actually let people help me. So I cry every year, happy and sad tears.
Yes, yes.
Because it's so overwhelming, and to be with all these other families and individuals and parents and, people that truly care about us and what we're going through and our son. And I got to say, my favorite people that come to the walk are honestly people that aren't impacted, that, aren't part of this tribe we call autism, and that they just are there to help and really show their support. Like, I think that's amazing. I go to the walk, because our family is impacted, and I just love and appreciate the people that just want to come and support us. So that is why it's my favorite day.
And I got to be honest, I did the walk in an entirely different way. When the first few years that we came to the walk, I came with my husband and my son, and it was just us. I saw all the people that were there in teams with their family there, and their neighbors, and their child's teacher, and they all had matching T-shirts, and they had capes, or you see the teams, and I was always amazed by that. I got to be honest that I was one of those people that didn't know how to access that. But even without doing a team, it became one of the most important things for us as a family, because it was a place that I could go. I'm going to get emotional.
It is emotional. It is an emotional day. I feel like we all let our guard down a bit, and that's okay.
And to be there with all those other people, and to see that I was not on the surface of the moon by myself, that there were all of these other people, and they were breathing and walking and talking, it would recharge my batteries every single year. And every year that we went back, our son was better. The first year was the hardest. And I remember that first year, and I had that chip on my shoulder of, well, everybody isn't dealing with what I'm dealing with. And I went to the walk, and there were, tens of thousands of people there. And there was one moment where I had my son in a stroller, and he was having a little bit of a meltdown. And I was sort of maneuvering my stroller and trying to get to the side and having that moment of, no one knows what it's like to be me. And there was another mom who was coming towards me with her child in a stroller, having the same exact moment, like a mirror moment. And we both looked at each other, and the first moment we were like, you're going to have to let me go through, because I have a child with autism having a meltdown, and you don't know what that's like. But there was that moment where both of these eyes met each other, and then we looked at each other and realized, oh, you're dealing with exactly with what I'm dealing with. And we sort of passed each other, stopped, hugged each other, and went on our way, and there was no conversation. But it reminded me that, I'm not alone, that there's something bigger going on here. And there were so many resources there that I, went around to all of the booths, and there wasn't even time to talk with each person at the booth, but I took every single pamphlet in the first year, and I put it in my bag, and I went home, and then I spread them all out. And I in some ways I'm incredibly organized and in others not. And this was well before I ever hosted a show about autism, but I spread all of the pamphlets out. There were toys and things and giveaways that I put aside that were like for my son to play with. But I put the pamphlets, and I was like, here's what I need right now. Here's what I'm going to need when he's a teenager. And I put them in a binder so that I could then go back and find them when it was time. And I felt like it was my insurance policy for the next 10 years. And so when I came back the next year and my son was better, I felt like I had more to bring to the table. And each year it was better. And we only did like 3 years of it before I was hosting a show and came back and, was working there and helping to send the message out. And then it became different for us. Then it became about telling the stories of the families, which were amazing. I still think of some of those teams and the people who would come out to support and the things that they said. Now I wish that in those first few years I had a team, but I got to tell you, even if you don't do a team, it's so worthwhile to go and see. And then there's the other side of it, that there's so many fun things for your kids to do. Every single booth has something fun going on, but you have other activities, and there are so many stars that are there. I've since gone back and gone with interns from the show, all of whom were on the spectrum, and that's what they loved the most. Now, I don't know who you've got this year, but in the past, I don't know which cheerleading team it was from one of the LA sports teams, but I thought my interns were going to pass out. They were so excited about it. Because they got to meet them. It's a big event, but it's also small enough that, you're there with the people. And it's just so lovely when people come out to support. So who's on your big list this year of exciting people that they can meet at the walk? Anybody fun, or is it too soon to say?
A little too soon to say.
Okay.
But I will say, I think what is so wonderful about this is you honestly never know who's going to show up.
Yes.
Whether I always look at this event as almost an autism reunion.
Yes.
You see like every speech therapist you've ever gone to. You see every mom you've met in a waiting room. People you haven't seen for 10 years. You're there. You're like, oh my God, how are you?
Yeah.
And there is this bigger community of people that really want to show up for our kids, which I think is amazing. So we do have ABC7 coming out. They have
lovely.
ABC7 and Univision have been tremendous partners of ours, literally since year 2003.
Yes.
So we so appreciate that long-running partnership with them. We're just so appreciative of them. So.
Well, this is a great event. I just had because they just told me we're already past 11 o'clock, so I had a small panic attack there for a moment. we're 5 minutes past when we were supposed to stop the show. But I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to come on and clarify. I think there's a lot, we're gonna have to schedule another time for you to come back on the show and tell your story and about the work that you're now doing with Autism Speaks and how this is a little bit of a reunion of in and of itself. Can I ask you to promise me that we can do that another time?
I would absolutely love that.
Okay. Well, again, the event is happening on Saturday. It's at the Rose Bowl. Where do they need to go to pre-register?
They can go to autismspeaks.org and click on the walk tab. That's the easiest way to get there.
Okay, so if you're going to wait until the day of to register, you're going to need to bring some money with you. Do they take cards the morning of?
Yes, we do have credit card processing.
Okay.
They can bring a check or they can bring cash.
Okay, so 8:30 a.m. is when registration opens. 10 o'clock is when the rolling start to the walk actually happens. When is the whole event over?
The event is over at 1 o'clock.
Okay, which is great because it just starts to get hot then, and everybody, it's like put a fork in everybody because everybody's done. I love it because then you have the rest of the day and you feel like you've really done something. So what an incredible event. I really encourage you to go. If you're within the Los Angeles area, go and see what it is that I'm talking about. It will become one of your favorite things to go to. Tracey, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you.
All right, well, and we will talk soon about your story on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
And I've gone way over, you guys, so I'm going to end and tell you to make sure that you tune in tomorrow because we've got a great Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.